The snow was falling so thick it felt like riding through television static. But Marcus Kane didn't slow down. Not for the weather, not for the ice that turned Highway 10 into a death trap. Not for the logical voice in his head screaming that a man with an active warrant had no business being out here on Christmas Eve. At 45 years old, Kane had long stopped listening to that voice. The wind howling through Snoqualmie Pass was brutal enough to snap tree branches like toothpicks. Kane barely felt it. 6'4", 240 pounds of muscle and scar tissue wrapped in heavy leather and denim. The winged death's head patch of the Hells Angels sat square on his back, marking him as what polite society called dangerous. He'd worn that patch for 8 years, earned it the hard way. The custom Harley panhead beneath him roared like a wounded animal as he pushed it harder through the blizzard. 11:30 at night, most of Washington state was tucked into warm beds waiting for Santa Claus and Christmas morning. Kane was just trying to get his bike back to the Spokane clubhouse after a mandatory run to Seattle. Club business, the kind that didn't get discussed with outsiders. The roads were treacherous, black ice covered by fresh powder, the kind of conditions that killed experienced riders every winter. Kane's headlights cut a narrow, desperate cone of yellow through the endless white. That cone was maybe 20 feet. Beyond that, nothing but howling darkness and snow. That's when he saw it. Just a flash of color off the shoulder of the highway, a jarring speck of pale pink against the aggressive, suffocating white of the snowbank. Most people would have kept riding, assumed it was blown debris, a jacket, a tarp, trash. But Kane's eyes were trained to notice the things that didn't belong. 8 years with the Angels, 5 years before that doing things he didn't talk about. You learn to see the anomalies, the details that meant the difference between going home and going to the hospital. Or the morgue. He downshifted. The heavy engine roared in protest. The tires broke traction. For one heart-stopping second, the bike slid sideways across the ice. Kane fought it. Weight shift, throttle control, the kind of muscle memory that kept you alive when your brain couldn't process fast enough. The tires bit, the bike straightened. Kane pulled over onto the narrow shoulder ice and gravel crunching beneath the heavy tread. He kicked the stand down. The wind immediately tried to shove him over as he dismounted. His engineer boots sank knee-deep into the powder as he trudged toward the ditch. The pink shape began to resolve. It was fabric, thin cotton, a pajama top. Kane's breath hitched in his throat, not from the cold. Lying in the snow, curled into a tight, shivering ball, was a little girl. She couldn't have been older than 6, maybe 7. Her bare feet were purple from the cold, the skin waxy and lifeless looking. Her matted blonde hair was crusted with ice and frozen blood. The pajamas she wore, thin discount store cotton with little flowers on them, were soaked through. Might as well have been tissue paper. Kane dropped to his knees. The sheer size of him, 6'4" and built like a brick wall, dwarfed the tiny fragile frame in the snow. He pulled off his heavy leather gauntlets. His hands were massive, scarred knuckles, faded prison ink across the fingers, hands that had hurt people. But when he reached out to touch her cheek, those hands were surprisingly gentle. It was like touching a block of ice. He rolled her slightly onto her back, checking for breathing. That's when the full horror revealed itself beneath the glow of his bike's headlight. Her face was severely swollen. A dark, angry ring of purple and black surrounded her left eye. Her lower lip was split, crusted with dried blood. Defensive bruises in the shape of adult fingertips were stamped violently into the flesh of her thin arms. She hadn't wandered out here. Someone had beaten this child, driven her out to the middle of nowhere in a blizzard, and tossed her into a ditch to die on Christmas Eve. The thought hit Kane like a physical blow. His jaw clenched so hard his teeth ached. The leather of his jacket creaked as his shoulders tensed. For a moment, the only sound was the howling wind and the distant rumble of his idling Harley. The girl let out a faint rattling exhale, a tiny cloud of vapor in the freezing air. She was alive. Barely. Kane didn't hesitate. There was no time to call 911. Out here in this weather, an ambulance would take 45 minutes to arrive, maybe longer. And this child didn't have 45 minutes. She had maybe 10. There was another problem. Kane had active warrants out of Oregon, aggravated assault charges from 5 years back, the kind that came with serious prison time. If state troopers showed up, he'd be in handcuffs before he could explain himself, and the girl would be frozen solid before the ambulance arrived. He made his decision in less than a second. Kane stripped off his heavy reinforced leather jacket. The club cut was still attached. The winged death's head, the Hells Angels bottom rocker, the patches that identified him as a member of the Spokane chapter. He wrapped the massive garment around the tiny girl. The sheepskin lining enveloped her entirely. He scooped her up. She weighed nothing. It was like holding a bundle of dry twigs, holding something that shouldn't be this light, this fragile. Kane felt something crack open in his chest, something he'd kept locked away for a very long time. He carried her to the Harley. The bike wasn't designed for passengers, especially not unconscious children, but Kane made it work. He secured her between his chest and the gas tank, zipping his thick flannel shirt over her as best he could to trap his body heat. The girl's head lolled against his chest. He could feel the ice in her hair pressing against his skin through the flannel. Kane fired up the panhead. The engine screamed into the silent, snowy night. He ignored the speed limits, ignored the ice, pushed the bike to the absolute edge of what was survivable. The rear tire broke loose twice. Both times Kane caught it, corrected, kept going. He wasn't riding toward the hospital. The hospital meant police. Police meant questions. Questions meant jail. And jail meant this little girl would end up in the system, with people who hadn't saved her the first time. Kane was riding toward the only sanctuary he knew that wouldn't ask questions. The neon sign of Rusty's Auto Salvage flickered weakly through the storm on the outskirts of Spokane. Behind the scrapyard sat a heavily fortified cinder block garage. Old military surplus construction. Thick walls, steel doors, no windows. It was a known safe house for the local Hells Angels chapter. More importantly, it was where Doc Thorne spent his nights. Dr. Samuel Thorne had lost his medical license a decade ago. Something about writing off the books prescriptions for pain medication. The DEA had gotten involved. The state medical board had revoked his license. Thorne had done 18 months in a federal facility. When he got out, the Hells Angels had been waiting. Because while Doc Thorne couldn't practice legal medicine anymore, he was still the best trauma surgeon on the wrong side of the law, better than most of the ones in hospitals. The Angels paid him well, kept him supplied with whatever equipment he needed, and in return, Thorne patched up bullet wounds, knife injuries, and motorcycle accidents without ever filing a police report. Kane kicked the steel door hard enough to dent it. The sound echoed through the garage like a gunshot. He kicked it again. Locks unfastened with a heavy clatter. The door swung open to reveal Doc Thorne, thin, nervous-looking, holding a shotgun that looked too big for his frame, late 50s with thinning gray hair and hands that shook slightly from years of self-medication. But when those hands worked, they were steady as stone. Thorne lowered the shotgun immediately when he saw Kane, completely covered in snow, holding a leather-wrapped bundle. "Kane, what the hell are you doing riding in this weather?" Kane pushed past him into the heat of the garage. "Clear the bench. Now, Doc. Move." Thorne scrambled, swept carburetors and wrenches off a long metal workbench. Tools clattered to the concrete floor. Kane gently laid the bundle down, pulled back the heavy leather jacket. Thorne gasped, actually took a step back. The color drained from his face. "Good God, is that a child, Kane? What have you done?" The accusation in his voice was immediate, automatic. Kane's eyes blazed with a dangerous protective fury. "I didn't do this, you idiot. I found her off Highway 10 dumped in a snowbank. She's freezing to death, and she's been beaten half to hell. Fix her." The command in his voice snapped Thorne out of his shock. Professional instincts overrode everything else. He grabbed a heavy wool blanket, a space heater, his medical kit, the good one he kept locked in a steel cabinet. For the next hour, the sprawling, grease-stained garage functioned as an emergency room. Thorne worked methodically. He elevated the girl's body temperature carefully, too fast and her heart could fail. He started an IV of warm saline, cleaned her wounds with antiseptic that made her small body twitch even though she was unconscious. Kane stood in the corner, chain-smoking Marlboros, pacing like a caged animal. The tension rolling off him was a physical thing. You could feel it in the air. He looked at the blood on his hands, her blood, dried now, flaking off when he rubbed his fingers together. The Hells Angels were outlaws. They smuggled contraband. They fought. They operated entirely outside the bounds of polite society. But there was an ironclad, unwritten rule in the biker code. You do not touch women, and you never, ever harm a child. To do so was a death sentence, the kind that came fast and brutal and permanent. Kane crushed out his third cigarette, immediately lit a fourth. "She's stabilizing," Thorne finally said. He wiped sweat from his forehead. Body temp is coming up. Pulse is getting stronger. But Kane, these bruises. This wasn't a one-time thing. These are in different stages of healing. Someone has been hurting this child for a long time. Kane felt something cold and sharp settle in his gut. Thorne gently turned the girl's head to clean a gash near her ear. That's when something caught the overhead fluorescent light, a glint of gold. "Wait, look at this." Kane stepped forward. His shadow fell across the workbench. Tangled in the girl's matted hair hidden beneath her collar was a heavy, incredibly ornate gold locket on a thick chain, the kind of jewelry that didn't belong on a child wearing threadbare discount store pajamas. Thorne popped the latch with careful fingers. Inside was a tiny faded photograph. A woman with striking green eyes holding a baby. The photo was old, worn at the edges, like it had been opened and looked at many times. Etched into the opposite side of the gold were letters, "A.M. Beloved." Thorne held the locket up to the light. "This is solid 24-karat gold, custom made, hand engraved. I used to see pieces like this when I worked out of the private clinics in Seattle." He looked at Kane. "This kid doesn't come from a trailer park. She comes from serious money." Before Kane could respond, a small, terrified whimper broke the silence. The girl's eyes fluttered open. They were a piercing, vivid green. Exactly like the woman in the locket. She saw the unfamiliar, grimy garage ceiling, industrial lighting, concrete walls. Then her eyes locked onto Kane. He was a terrifying sight. A giant of a man, 6'4" and covered in tattoos, a thick beard laced with melting snow, eyes narrowed with barely controlled anger. The girl shrank back, let out a sharp gasp, tried to curl into a ball despite the IV line in her arm. Fear, pure animal fear. Kane immediately dropped to one knee, making himself as small as possible. He took off his skull cap, tossed his lit cigarette into a nearby oil drum, held up both hands, palms out. Hey, it's okay. Nobody is gonna hurt you here. I promise you that. What's your name, a little bird?" The girl trembled, pulled the wool blanket up to her chin with small, bruised fingers. She looked at his leather jacket, the one that had saved her life, the winged death's head staring back at her. Then she looked back at his eyes. Children have an innate radar for danger, but they also have a radar for true protectors, for the ones who will stand between them and the monsters. Whatever she saw in Kane's eyes, it made her stop crying. Her small voice was raspy, broken. "Lily," Kane nodded slowly, kept his voice soft. "Okay, Lily, that's a beautiful name. I'm Marcus. But people call me Kane. Who did this to you? Who left you in the snow?" Lily's lower lip quivered. Her small hand reached up to grip the locket around her neck. "The warden." Kane and Thorne exchanged a glance. "Warden, not father, not dad, not even a name." "The warden?" Kane kept his voice gentle, even though rage was building behind his ribs. "Who's the warden, sweetheart?" Lily's eyes filled with tears. They spilled down her bruised cheeks. "He said I was bad. He said I talk back. He said Christmas is only for real daughters, not stolen ones." The words hung in the air like smoke. Stolen. Kane stood up slowly. The protective instinct that had fueled his desperate ride through the blizzard had just transformed into something entirely different. Something cold, calculating, lethal. He walked to the corner of the garage, grabbed his burner phone from his jacket pocket. He dialed a number he knew by heart. 3 rings. Then a voice rough from sleep and cigarettes. "This better be good." "Reaper, it's Kane. I need you at Rusty's. Now, bring everyone." A pause, then the voice sharpened. "What happened?" Kane looked back at Lily. The little girl was watching him with those green eyes, trusting him. "We have a guest, 6 years old. Somebody beat her and left her to freeze on Highway 10. They think they got away with it." Another pause. When Reaper spoke again, his voice was cold as the ice outside. "They think wrong. I'll make the calls. 20 minutes. The line went dead. By 3 in the morning on Christmas Day, the garage was no longer quiet. The roar of a dozen heavy V-twin engines shook the snow off the roof as patched members of the Spokane Hells Angels arrived. They filed in one by one, stamping snow off their boots, shaking ice from their beards. A terrifying assembly of leather, denim, and muscle. At the center of the room stood Garrett Cross, the chapter president, 55 years old with a long, jagged scar running down the left side of his face. His hair was iron gray, pulled back in a ponytail. His eyes were the color of gunmetal. They called him Reaper. He had earned the name in the Gulf War, Marine Corps 1st Recon Battalion, the kind of operations that didn't make the news. Reaper commanded absolute loyalty, not through fear, through competence, through fairness, through the understanding that when the club moved, it moved as one. Kane stood by the workbench. Lily was sleeping in the small back office now. Under the effects of pain medication, the door was closed. But Kane kept one eye on it at all times. He briefed Reaper in low tones, showed him the locket, explained what Lily had said. Reaper turned the heavy gold locket over in his scarred hands. His cold eyes narrowed. "Nobody dumps a kid on our stretch of highway and lives to see New Year's. Not while I run this chapter." He turned to face the room. The assembled bikers went quiet. He held up the locket. "Listen up. We have a guest in the back room, 6 years old. Somebody beat her and left her to freeze on Highway 10 near mile marker 42. They think they got away with it because the cops are busy pulling drunks out of ditches." A low, dangerous murmur rippled through the men. "The cops operate by the book. They need warrants. They need jurisdiction. They need probable cause and Miranda rights and all that constitutional bullshit." He smiled. It wasn't a pleasant expression. "We don't." Reaper looked at Kane. "What did you see at the scene?" Kane stepped forward, pulled a crumpled, damp piece of paper from his pocket. "Snow was heavy, filling in fast, but before I pulled her out, I saw tire tracks on the shoulder. Wide tread, deep grooves. Heavy luxury SUV, Range Rover or G-Wagon pattern. And I found this frozen in the slush right where the passenger door would have opened." Reaper took the receipt. The ink was heavily smeared, but a few lines were still visible at the top. "Silverleaf Fine Wines and Spirits. Date December 24th. Time 21:15. Customer name partially visible. V. Moore, then the rest cut off by water damage. A biker named Axel stepped forward. 6'6", 300 pounds of muscle and scar tissue. Silverleaf. That's down in South Hill, the ritzy part of town. Gated communities, the kind of people who pay off the judges we stand in front of." Another biker spoke up. Younger guy, maybe 30, called himself Bones. Before the Angels, he'd been military intelligence. "I can run that receipt. Find out who V. Moore is." Reaper nodded. "Do it, fast." Bones pulled out a laptop. His fingers flew across the keyboard. The room waited in tense silence. 5 minutes passed. Then Bones looked up. Got him. Vincent Moretti purchased 2 bottles of Dom Perignon and a bottle of Macallan 30-year Scotch at Silverleaf Fine Wines on December 24th at 9:17 p.m. He typed some more. Vincent Moretti, age 48, CEO of Moretti Global Logistics, net worth estimated at $500 million, sits on the boards of 3 major charities, plays golf with the police chief and the mayor. He drives a black Mercedes G-Wagon, registered to his primary residence in South Hill. The pieces were falling into place with terrifying speed. Kane's jaw clenched. He could feel the rage building. Reaper put a hand on his shoulder, squeezed once. Easy, brother. We do this smart. He turned back to the room. Moretti thinks his money makes him invisible. Let's go show him he's not. Kane slid a heavy Colt M1911 pistol from his waistband. Check the magazine. He slammed it back home with a sharp metallic clack. I'm coming. Reaper looked at him for a moment and, I know you are, but we don't just kick down the door of a half-billionaire on Christmas morning. If we do that sloppy, the cops bring down the National Guard on us. He turned to address the room. If we do this, we do it the Angels way. We ghost him. We take him apart piece by piece, and we find out where this girl really came from. Reaper began assigning targets. Axel take 3 guys, ride to Moretti's estate, get eyes on the property, check the garage for that G-Wagon, see if the tires match. Don't engage. If he tries to run, you stop him. Axel nodded, selected 3 bikers with a glance. Bones, you're with me and Kane. We're going to dig into Moretti's background. Find me leverage. Reaper looked at Kane. You said the girl mentioned the initials AM on the locket. Bones, can you cross-reference that with Moretti? Bones was already typing. Give me 5 minutes. While Bones worked, Kane walked to the back office, opened the door quietly. Lily was still asleep on the small cot wrapped in blankets. Her breathing was steady now. The color was coming back to her face. But the bruises were still there, dark and ugly. Kane felt that cold, sharp thing in his gut again. The thing that demanded action. Violence. Justice. He closed the door, walked back to the main garage. Bones looked up from his laptop. His face was grim. Founder, AM stands for Amanda Morgan, age 38, heiress to the Morgan shipping empire, sole surviving heir to a trust fund worth $200 million. He pulled up a photograph. Amanda Morgan was beautiful. Long blonde hair, those same striking green eyes that Lily had. 5 years ago, Amanda Morgan married Vincent Moretti. High society wedding. Made all the papers. He scrolled through articles. 3 years ago, something changed. Amanda Morgan Moretti was declared mentally incompetent by a private judge. Vincent Moretti was granted full power of attorney and control over the Morgan Trust Fund. 6 months after that, Amanda was committed to Pinewood Psychiatric Institute, private facility up in the mountains near Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. She's been there ever since. The room went deathly quiet. Reaper's eyes narrowed to slits. The trust fund. What happens if Amanda dies? Bones typed, pulled up the legal documents. Standard bloodline inheritance clause. If Amanda dies, the money goes to her direct legal heir. Child adopted or biological, it goes to Lily. Kane felt everything click into place. But as long as Lily is alive, Reaper said slowly, Moretti can't fully control the money. He just manages it. Thorne spoke up from where he'd been quietly cleaning his medical equipment. But if Amanda is locked away forever, declared mentally incompetent, and Lily tragically wanders off into a blizzard and freezes to death on Christmas Eve, Reaper finished the thought. Moretti inherits it all. $200 million. He beat a 6-year-old girl and threw her into a ditch for money. The collective rage of the Hells Angels chapter was a physical force in the room. Reaper stepped into the center. The undisputed leader was in full command mode now. Here's the play. Moretti owns the local police chief. If we call the cops, he stalls them, destroys the evidence. We get arrested. Lily ends up in foster care and Moretti walks. If we kill him, it's a murder charge. The state puts Lily in the system anyway. He looked around the room, met every man's eyes. We don't just take his life. We take his power. We take his freedom. We make sure he spends the rest of his miserable existence in a federal cage. He started assigning the final pieces. Axel's team holds position at the estate. Nobody leaves. Hammerbolt, take your crew. Ride to Idaho. Hit Pinewood Psychiatric Institute. Find Amanda Morgan. Get her out. Bring her to the safe house. The bikers nodded, started gearing up. What about Moretti? Kane asked. His voice was low, dangerous. Reaper looked at him, saw the fury in his brother's eyes. Moretti is ours, you, me, and Bones. We're going to walk right through his front door. Reaper checked his watch. 4:15 in the morning. We move at first light. Mount up. Let's go hunting. Kane walked back to the office one more time. Lily was still sleeping, peaceful now, safe. He knelt beside her cot, brushed a strand of blonde hair from her forehead. I'm going to get the man who hurt you, and I'm going to bring your mother home. That's a promise, little bird. Lily stirred slightly. Her small hand reached out in her sleep, touched Kane's scarred knuckles. For just a moment, the hardened outlaw felt something he hadn't felt in years. Purpose. Kane stood, walked back to the main garage, pulled on his leather jacket. The death's head patch settled onto his broad back. He checked his pistol one more time. Reaper was waiting by his bike. You ready for this? Reaper asked. Kane looked at him, his eyes were cold, focused. I've been ready since the moment I found her in that snow. The Hells Angels Spokane chapter rolled out into the pre-dawn darkness. 12 bikes, 24 men, all committed to a single purpose. Justice for a little girl named Lily, and hell for the man who called himself the Warden. The storm had broken by the time Kane and Reaper reached the outskirts of South Hill. Dawn was still an hour away, but the snow had stopped falling. What remained was a deadly pristine silence. South Hill sat on elevated ground overlooking Spokane, where the money lived, where CEOs and developers built their monuments to success. Gated communities, private security, manicured lawns that cost more to maintain than most people earned in a year. Vincent Moretti's estate sat at the end of a private cul-de-sac. The Hells Angels hadn't been invited. Kane and Reaper cut their engines a quarter-mile out. Let the bikes coast to a stop in the shadow of a snow-covered pine grove. Axel and his crew were already in position. They'd set up observation posts on the ridge overlooking Moretti's property. Reaper's radio crackled. Ghost, this is Axel. Target property is quiet. No movement. Security detail looks thin. Reaper keyed his radio. Copy. What about the garage? Bull's got eyes on it. Detached structure. Door is open about 6 inches. A pause. Bull report. Bull's voice came through. Deep, slow. Got a black G-Wagon. Mercedes. Passenger side is facing me. Door's open. I can see something pink on the floorboard. Looks like a kid's shoe, and there's a blanket tossed in the corner. Got dark stains on it. Kane felt his jaw clench. He didn't wait for permission. He was already moving, vaulting the snow-covered wall. His boots hit the ground silently. Reaper was right behind him. They crossed the manicured lawn in a crouch, using the ornamental trees for cover. Kane reached into the garage first, pressed his back against the wall beside the open door. Listened. Nothing. Just the hum of the heating system. He risked a look inside. The garage was climate-controlled luxury, epoxy floors, unused tool chests, and in the center bay a black Mercedes G-Wagon. Kane slipped inside. Reaper covered the entrance. The passenger door hung open. On the floorboard, a small pink sneaker, child size, wet from the storm. The blanket in the back seat was worse, wadded up, covered in dark brown stains. blood. Kane pulled out his phone, took photographs. He moved to the front of the vehicle, examined the tires. The tread pattern matched. Wide, aggressive. There was frozen mud caked in the grooves, and small stones, the kind you'd find on the shoulder of a mountain highway. Like Highway 10. Kane stood. The rage was building again. Reaper appeared beside him. Careless, arrogant. He didn't even bother to clean up. Kane nodded. He thought he was untouchable. He thought wrong. They moved deeper into the garage, found a door that led into the main house. It was unlocked. The door opened into a mudroom, expensive tile, heated floors, rows of designer coats arranged like a boutique display. Everything except the small, child-sized coat hook that was empty. They moved through the house like wraiths. Kane took point. Reaper covered. Clear each room. Watch your corners. Stay silent. The house was obscene in its luxury. Marble everywhere. Original artwork on the walls. A kitchen that could service a restaurant. All of it perfect. All of it empty. No sign of a child. No toys. No small furniture. Nothing to indicate that a 6-year-old girl had ever lived here. It was like Lily had been erased. Kane found the home office on the second floor. Heavy mahogany door, locked. He pulled a small tension wrench and pick from his pocket. The lock gave way in under 30 seconds. Inside the office was exactly what you'd expect. Massive desk, leather chairs, floor-to-ceiling bookshelves, a wet bar in the corner, and a wall safe, hidden behind a painting. Reaper moved to the desk, started opening drawers. Kane went to the safe. Kane pulled out his phone, texted Bones. Need safe cracked. Browning Pro Steel. Bones responded in seconds with a code sequence. Kane punched it in. Red light. Then Bones sent another the number Moretti called most frequently. Kane tried it. Green light. The safe opened. Inside cash fake passports in a leather journal. While Reaper found something in the desk, his expression darkened. Kane, look at this. He held up a folder. Medical records from Pinewood Psychiatric Institute. Patient name Amanda Morgan Moretti. Kane took the folder, flipping through it. His expression grew colder with each page. The records detailed 3 years of treatment, medications, therapy sessions, all of it painting a picture of a woman suffering from severe mental illness. But there was something off. The handwriting was too neat, too consistent, like someone had filled out all these reports at the same time backdating them. And the medications. The dosages were excessive, antipsychotics, sedatives, drugs that would turn anyone into a zombie. There was a note paper clipped to the most recent page, handwritten. Dr. Richards, increased lithium to 1,800 milligrams daily. Patient becoming more coherent. This is unacceptable. We discussed the importance of maintaining current mental state. Your monthly retainer will reflect your cooperation. It was signed with initials, V.M. Vincent Moretti. The implication was clear. Moretti had been paying Pinewood staff to keep Amanda drugged into submission. Kane's hands trembled as he held the note, not from fear, from rage. He pulled out the leather journal from the safe, started reading. The journal was a playbook for financial fraud, detailed notes on how Moretti had orchestrated everything. There were entries about Lily. The child is a complication. AM insists on adoption proceedings. Have explained this jeopardizes trust fund control. May need to accelerate timeline. Another entry dated 6 months later. Adoption finalized. Lily Morgan Moretti now legal heir. This cannot stand. Alternative solutions required. The entries grew darker. AM, attempting to leave, took the child, had to physically restrain, called Dr. Richards at Pinewood, arrangements being made. AM now committed, Judge Brennan cooperative as expected, $2 million well spent. Lily remains problem. The final entry was dated December 23rd. Child becoming unmanageable. keeps asking for mother. Christmas Eve will provide cover. Winter storm predicted. Tragic accident. Hypothermia. Case closed. Kane felt something cold settle in his chest. This was premeditated murder, planned down to the weather forecast. He photographed every page, sent them to Bones for backup. Reaper was going through the rest of the safe, found more documents, bank statements showing regular payments to Pinewood, to Judge Brennan, to various other officials, a complete paper trail of corruption. "We've got him," Reaper said quietly. "This is enough to bury him for life." Kane closed the journal. "Good, because I want him to rot." His radio crackled, Axel's voice urgent. "Ghost, we've got a movement. Subject is awake. He's on the phone, looks agitated." Reaper keyed his radio. "Copy. What's he doing?" "He just went to his bedroom window, looked outside, then grabbed something from his nightstand. Could be a weapon." Kane and Reaper exchanged a glance. "Time to go," Reaper said. They moved quickly, back through the house, taking the evidence with them. As they reached the first floor, lights suddenly blazed to life throughout the house. An alarm system, the kind that just lit up the property like a stadium. They'd been made. Somewhere in the Idaho mountains, Hammer and his crew were approaching Pinewood Psychiatric Institute. The facility sat on a remote hilltop, the kind of place you sent people you wanted to forget about. Pinewood called itself a psychiatric hospital, but it was really a prison for the wealthy. Hammer had spent 2 years in a similar facility. He knew exactly what these places were, how they operated, how they kept people trapped. He also knew their weaknesses. There were 6 bikers in the assault team. Hammer took point. The perimeter fence was 12 feet high. Razor wire, cameras, motion sensors. At 4:30 on Christmas morning, the monitoring was minimal. Hammer's bolt cutters made quick work of the chain link. They were through before the cameras could track them. Bull swung the breaching ram at the main entrance. The door exploded inward. Alarms immediately started screaming. Red lights flashed. They were inside. The overnight guards scrambled, reaching for a radio. Hammer grabbed him by his uniform collar, lifted him off the ground. "Amanda Morgan, what room?" the guard stammered, eyes wide with fear. I can't." Hammer pulled his knife. Big Bowie, 12-inch blade. "Wrong answer. Try again." "Third floor, room 417. Secure ward, please. I've got kids, man." Hammer dropped him. "Stay down." The team moved deeper, past the administrative offices, past the common areas. They found the stairwell, started climbing. Third floor, heavier security, electronic locks on every door. Room 417 was at the end of the hall. Bull raised the breaching ram. The door exploded inward. Inside, sitting on a narrow bed, was Amanda Morgan. She looked nothing like the photographs. That Amanda had been vibrant, healthy. This Amanda was a ghost, thin to the point of emaciation. Her blonde hair was dull. Her green eyes were clouded with medication. She wore a hospital gown. The room itself was barely larger than a prison cell. A bed, a toilet, a sink, nothing else. This wasn't treatment. This was storage. Amanda looked up at the bikers, 6 huge men in leather, armed. For a moment, absolute terror crossed her face. She shrank back against the wall. "Please, please don't hurt me. Vincent said you'd come." Hammer held up both hands. "We're not with Vincent, ma'am. We're here to take you home." Amanda shook her head. "I don't have a home. Vincent said I was sick, said I wasn't fit to be a mother." Hammer knelt down, brought himself to eye level. "You have a daughter, Lily. Do you remember Lily?" At the sound of that name, something changed in Amanda's face. The fog cleared. Her eyes focused, became sharp. "Lily, my baby, where is she?" Vincent took her. The desperation in her voice was heartbreaking. Hammer spoke gently. "Lily is safe. She's with friends of ours. She's been asking for you. She wants her mama." Amanda's hands flew to her mouth. A sob escaped. 3 years of drug submission cracking apart. My baby, my Lily. He took her from me. I tried to protect her. I tried to leave. He had me committed. She grabbed Hammer's arm. Her grip was surprisingly strong. You have to get her away from him. He'll hurt her. He only wants the money, he told me. Late at night when he thought the drugs made me too confused to remember. He said as long as Lily lived, he couldn't touch the trust. He said she was a mistake, a complication. Hammer's jaw clenched. Lily's safe, and Vincent is about to have a very bad day. But we need to get you out of here. Can you walk? Amanda nodded, tried to stand. Her legs almost gave out. Bull stepped forward, gently picked her up. She weighed almost nothing. Let's go home, ma'am. They moved fast, back down the hallways, down the stairs. More guards had responded to the alarm, but they took one look at the armed bikers and decided discretion was the better part of valor. They were back outside in under 3 minutes. Bull had a sidecar attached to his motorcycle. He settled Amanda inside, wrapped her in blankets. Amanda looked up at him, at Hammer. Who are you people? Hammer started his bike. The engine roared to life. We're the bad guys, ma'am, but today we're your bad guys. They rode into the dawn, 6 motorcycles carrying a woman who'd been buried alive for 3 years, taking her back to the daughter she'd been forced to abandon. Behind them, Pinewood's alarms continued to scream. Vincent Moretti was panicking. The phone call from Pinewood had woken him. The head of security stammering about a break-in, about armed men, about Amanda being taken. That's when Moretti knew. Someone had connected the dots. Someone had found the girl. Someone had tracked it back to him. He threw on clothes, grabbed his go bag, cash, fake passport, a burner phone. He'd always known this day might come. That's why he had contingencies, escape routes. He'd disappear, change his name, start over somewhere the American legal system couldn't reach. He went to the garage. The G-Wagon was still there. He should have cleaned it last night. Should have disposed of the blanket, the shoe. Arrogance. It was always arrogance that brought men like him down. Moretti threw his bag in the back seat, started the engine. He triggered the garage door opener. The door began to rise, and on the other side, illuminated by the garage lights, stood Marcus Kane. Moretti's blood turned to ice. Kane was a terrifying sight. 6'4", covered in leather and tattoos, the Hells Angels' death's head on his chest. His face was completely expressionless, but his eyes, those eyes burned with a cold, focused rage. Moretti threw the G-Wagon into reverse, stomped the accelerator. The heavy SUV shot backwards, crashed through the back wall. Wood and drywall exploded. Moretti cranked the wheel, threw it into drive. He accelerated toward the front gate. Behind him, he heard the roar of motorcycle engines. They were following. Moretti's hands shook on the wheel. He fumbled for his phone. Speed dialed a number. The police chief. The call went to voicemail. He tried another number. His lawyer, same result. It was Christmas morning. Everyone was with their families. Moretti was alone. The front gate was closed. He didn't slow down. The G-Wagon hit the ornate wrought iron at 40 miles per hour. Metal shrieked. The gate tore from its hinges. The motorcycles stayed on him. 2 of them, matching his speed, one on each side. He recognized the rider on his left. Kane. His face was a mask of controlled violence. Moretti swerved, tried to force the bike off the road. Kane anticipated it, dropped back. They were heading out of South Hill now, onto the main highway. The roads were still icy from the storm, treacherous. But Moretti pushed the accelerator down. 60 miles per hour, 70, 80, the bike stayed with him. Moretti reached under his seat, pulled out a pistol, a Glock 19. He cranked down the window. Cold air blasted into the cabin. He stuck his arm out, aimed at the bike to his right, fired. The shot went wide. The recoil startled him. The G-Wagon swerved. Moretti overcorrected. The heavy SUV's rear end started to slide. He was losing control. The road ahead curved. Moretti tried to brake. Too late. Too fast. The SUV's tires locked. The vehicle went into a full sideways skid on the ice. Time seemed to slow down. The G-Wagon hit the bank at 60 miles per hour, went airborne, rotated, came down hard on its roof. The world became a tumbling chaos of breaking glass and screaming metal and airbags deploying. Then stillness. Moretti hung upside down in his seatbelt, blood running down his face from a gash on his forehead. His ears ringing, his vision blurred. He heard the motorcycle stop, heard boots crunching through snow. His door was wrenched open, the twisted metal shrieking in protest. Hands grabbed him, pulled him from the wreckage, threw him face down in the snow. Kane knelt beside him, grabbed a fistful of Moretti's expensive hair, lifted his head. Cold, isn't it? Kane's voice was barely above a whisper, but it carried more menace than any scream. Imagine being 6 years old, beaten, bleeding, wondering why the person who's supposed to protect you wants you dead. Kane shoved Moretti's face into the snow, held it there. 5 seconds. 10. 15. Moretti thrashed, couldn't breathe, his lungs screamed. Kane pulled him up, let him gasp for air. That's what you did to her. You beat that little girl. You threw her away like garbage. On Christmas Eve. Moretti coughed, spat blood and snow. I didn't. You don't understand. The money, it was supposed to be mine. Kane hit him. A single brutal punch to the face. Moretti's head snapped back. Blood exploded from his nose. The money, that's what this was about. $200 million. You married a woman for her inheritance. You had her committed. You tried to murder a child, all for money. Reaper appeared, holding a recording device. Say it again, Vincent. Tell us about the money, about what you did to Amanda, about what you did to Lily. Moretti was crying now, broken, the carefully constructed facade completely shattered. I needed it. Do you understand? I was leveraged. My company was failing. I had debts. I married Amanda for the trust fund. But that brat, that adopted brat, as long as she was alive, I couldn't touch the principal. Only manage it. I had to. I had to make her go away. He sobbed. It was supposed to look like an accident. Hypothermia. The storm would cover it. No one would know. Reaper kept the recorder running. Got every word. In the distance, the sound of helicopter rotors echoed across the frozen landscape. Kane looked up, saw the aircraft approaching, marked with FBI insignia. Reaper had made the call before they'd even left Rusty's. A special agent he knew. A woman who'd worked organized crime. The helicopter touched down 50 yards away. A woman in an FBI windbreaker stepped out, mid-40s, blonde hair pulled back, sharp eyes. Agent Rachel Brennan. She walked over, looked at Moretti bleeding and broken in the snow, looked at the wrecked G-Wagon, looked at Kane and Reaper. Mr. Kane, Mr. Cross, I got your evidence package, the journal, the medical records, the photographs. Very thorough. She knelt beside Moretti. Vincent Moretti, you're under arrest for attempted murder, kidnapping, fraud, and about a dozen other charges I'm still counting. You have the right to remain silent. She continued the Miranda warning, but Moretti wasn't listening. He was staring at Kane with hatred and fear and the growing realization that his life was over. Brennan stood, signaled to other agents emerging from the helicopter. They moved in, cuffed Moretti, started processing the scene. Brennan turned to Kane. You know I have to bring you in too. You have active warrants out of Oregon. Kane nodded. He'd known this was coming. I know, but the girl, Lily, someone needs to... She'll be taken care of. Amanda Morgan is being transported to a secure medical facility for evaluation. Once she's cleared, she'll be reunited with her daughter. Brennan's expression softened slightly. You saved that child's life, Mr. Kane. That counts for something. I'll make sure the prosecutors in Oregon know the full story, but I can't make any promises. Kane looked at Reaper. Take care of her. Until Amanda's ready, make sure Lily knows. He trailed off. Reaper gripped his shoulder. She'll know you kept your promise, brother. I'll make sure of it. Kane nodded, held out his wrist for the handcuffs. Agent Brennan hesitated, then made a decision. Not yet. Come with me first. There's someone who wants to meet you. She led Kane to the helicopter. Inside, wrapped in blankets, was Amanda Morgan. Still weak, still recovering from 3 years of chemical imprisonment. But her eyes were clear now, focused. She looked at Kane, this huge, terrifying biker who'd just beaten a man in the snow. You're the one who found her. Kane nodded. Amanda started crying, reached out with a trembling hand. Kane took it gently. Thank you. Thank you for saving my baby. Kane's voice was rough. She's a brave kid, tougher than she should have to be. Amanda squeezed his hand. Agent Brennan told me what you did, what you risked. I don't know how to repay that. Just take care of her. That's all the payment I need. Amanda nodded, then said something that surprised him. I'm going to hire the best lawyers money can buy. For you. Whatever legal troubles you're in, we'll fix it. You gave me back my daughter. I'm going to give you back your freedom. Kane didn't know what to say. For a long moment, he just stood there. Finally, he managed 2 words. Thank you. Agent Brennan gently pulled him back. Come on, Mr. Kane, we need to get statements. Process evidence. And yes, deal with those warrants. But I have a feeling this is going to work out better than you think. As Kane was led away, he looked back one more time at the crash site, at Moretti being loaded into an FBI vehicle, at the wreckage of the G-Wagon. Justice, he thought. Not the kind you found in courtrooms, but justice nonetheless. The sun was rising over Spokane. Christmas morning. Families would be waking up, opening presents, celebrating. And somewhere in a safe house, a little girl named Lily would be waiting for her mother to come home. Because of what Kane had done. Because he'd chosen to stop on a dark highway in a blizzard. Because he'd refused to look away. Sometimes he thought the angels wear leather and ride steel. And sometimes that's exactly what the world needs. 7 o'clock on Christmas morning. The garage at Rusty's Auto Salvage was warmer than it had any right to be. Doc Thorne had cranked the space heaters to full. Outside, the world was frozen. Inside, there was warmth, safety, hope. Lily was awake, sitting on the edge of the cot in the back office, still wearing the oversized Harley-Davidson t-shirt. Her small feet dangled above the floor. The bruises on her face had darkened overnight, purple and black and yellow, a roadmap of cruelty. But her eyes were clear, alert. She'd slept through the night for the first time in months. Real sleep. Reaper sat in a chair nearby, keeping watch, making sure she felt safe. He heard the bikes approaching before anyone else did. The distinctive rumble of Hammer's crew. 6 engines. The garage door opened. Cold air rushed in. Then Hammer. Then Bull. And carried in Bull's arms, wrapped in blankets, was Amanda Morgan. Reaper stood, moved to the office doorway, blocked it with his body. He needed to see Amanda first. Needed to make sure she was coherent. Ready. Because Lily had been through enough trauma. Amanda's feet touched the ground. She swayed slightly. 3 years of heavy sedation didn't leave you quickly. But she was there, present. Her green eyes were clouded with medication but clearing, focusing. She looked around the garage, at the bikers, at the tools and motorcycles and oil stains. Then she saw Reaper, saw the way he stood in the doorway, protective. Is she here? Amanda's voice was hoarse, trembling. Is my baby here? Reaper nodded slowly. She's here, she's safe. But ma'am, I need you to understand. She's been hurt, not just physically. She's scared, confused, Vincent told her things, made her believe things. Amanda's hands flew to her mouth. A sob caught in her throat. What did he do to her? He beat her. Regularly, told her she wasn't wanted. Told her Christmas was only for real daughters. Reaper's voice was gentle but honest. She's been asking for you, but she might not react the way you expect. The trauma, it changes things. Amanda nodded, tears streaming down her hollow cheeks. I understand. Please, I just need to see her. I need her to know I never stopped loving her, never stopped fighting to get back to her. Reaper stepped aside. Amanda moved to the office doorway. Stopped. Her breath caught. Lily was standing now, holding onto the edge of the cot for support, her small body tense, ready to run if needed. For a long moment, mother and daughter just stared at each other. 3 years. 3 years of forced separation. Amanda dropped to her knees, right there on the concrete floor, made herself small, non-threatening. Let Lily come to her if she chose. Lily. Her voice was barely a whisper. Lily's eyes went wide, recognition flickering across her face, fighting against the fog of trauma and time and everything Vincent had told her. Mommy. The word came out uncertain, like she was afraid to believe it was real. Yes, baby, it's Mommy. I'm here. I came back for you. Lily took one tentative step forward, then another, her small bare feet on the cold floor. The warden said you didn't want me anymore, said you were sick, said you forgot about me. Amanda shook her head, tears falling freely now. I never forgot you, not for 1 second. I thought about you every day, every hour. I tried to get back to you. I tried so hard, but he locked me away, gave me medicine that made me confused, made it hard to think. But I never stopped loving you. Never. Lily was closer now, within arm's reach. She looked at her mother, at this woman who looked like the person she remembered but thinner, older, sadder. He hurt me, Mommy. When I asked about you, when I tried to call you, he said I was bad, said I deserved it. Amanda's face crumpled, the weight of 3 years of helplessness crushing down on her. You weren't bad, baby. You were perfect. You are perfect. And none of this was your fault. None of it. The warden Vincent, he's the bad one. Not you, never you. Lily's lower lip trembled. The dam was breaking. All the fear and pain and loneliness. All the nights crying herself to sleep. I missed you so much. Amanda opened her arms. I'm here now, sweetheart. I'm here. Lily ran, threw herself into her mother's arms. Amanda caught her, held her tight, rocked her back and forth on the concrete floor, both of them sobbing, both of them clinging to each other like drowning swimmers finding a lifeline. I've got you. I've got you. You're safe now. I'm never letting you go again. Never. Lily buried her face in her mother's shoulder, her small body shaking with sobs. 3 years of grief pouring out all at once. Around them, the Hell's Angels stood in silence. These hard, dangerous men. Some of them had tears in their eyes. Others looked away. Doc Thorne wiped at his face with the back of his hand. Reaper just watched, his scarred face expressionless. But his eyes showed everything he wouldn't say out loud. This was why they'd risked everything. Why they'd broken laws and threatened violence and gone to war against a billionaire. For this moment, this reunion, this family being put back together. Amanda finally pulled back slightly, looked at Lily's bruised face, touched the marks gently, carefully, her expression hardening. Did Vincent do this to you? Lily nodded. He said if I was good, it wouldn't hurt as much. But I wasn't good enough. I kept asking for you. Amanda pulled her daughter close again, whispered in her ear, you listen to me, Lily Morgan. You are good. You are so good and brave and strong, stronger than I ever knew. You survived. You held on. And now we're together again. And I swear on everything I am, No one will ever hurt you again. Lily's small voice muffled against her mother's shoulder. Promise. I promise. They stayed like that for a long time. Mother and daughter reunited, healing. 3 days after her rescue from Pinewood, Amanda sat in a sterile FBI interview room. The medication was clearing from her system faster than the doctors had expected. Agent Rachel Brennan sat across from her, a recorder on the table between them. Amanda looked better. They'd moved her to a private medical facility. Legitimate doctors, proper treatment. She was eating, sleeping, recovering, but the shadows were still there, in her eyes, in the way she held herself. Brennan's voice was gentle, professional but kind. Mrs. Morgan, I know this is difficult, but I need you to tell me everything from the beginning. This testimony will be crucial for the prosecution. Amanda nodded, took a sip of water, began. I met Vincent 5 years ago at a charity gala. My family's foundation was hosting it. He was charming, successful. I'd lost my first husband, Arthur, to cancer 2 years before that. I was lonely, vulnerable. She paused, collected herself. Vincent courted me. Flowers, gifts, attention. We were married within 6 months. I thought I'd found a second chance at happiness. When did things change? Almost immediately. As soon as the marriage was legal, he started asking about the trust fund. I told him it was tied up, that I couldn't touch the principal, only lived off the interest. Amanda's hands clenched. He got angry, not violent at first, just cold, distant. But then I decided to adopt. I'd always wanted to be a mother. That's when you adopted Lily. Yes, she was 3 years old in the foster system. Beautiful, sweet, but so scared. I fell in love with her immediately. She called me mommy within a month. It was the happiest I'd been since Arthur died. Amanda's voice cracked. Vincent hated it, hated her. He saw her as a complication, an obstacle. He told me I was being foolish, that Lily was damaged goods. I should have left him then. What happened next? The adoption finalized. Lily became my legal daughter, my heir. That's when Vincent's lawyers explained the situation to him. That as long as Lily was alive, he couldn't liquidate the trust. He could only manage it. Amanda closed her eyes. He started being cruel to her. Little things at first, criticizing her, ignoring her. Then it escalated. He'd grab her too hard, shake her when she cried, tell her she was worthless. I tried to protect her, tried to leave, but Vincent had connections, power. Tell me about the commitment. I was going to take Lily and run. I'd packed bags, made plans. Vincent found out. He came home early. We fought. I told him I was leaving, taking Lily, filing for divorce. Amanda's voice dropped to a whisper. He hit me. First time he'd ever done that. Knocked me down. Then he called Dr. Richards from Pinewood. They'd already made arrangements, had papers ready. He had you committed that same day. Yes, told everyone I'd had a psychotic break, that I was a danger to myself and to Lily. Judge Brennan signing the order. No hearing, no evaluation, just Vincent's word in a $2 million payment. Brennan made notes, her jaw tight. In Pinewood, it's not a hospital, it's a prison. They gave me drugs, so many drugs, antipsychotics, sedatives, things that made it hard to think, hard to remember. I tried to fight it at first, but they didn't listen. Vincent paid them well. Amanda looked directly at Brennan. He visited me once a month, always late at night. He'd tell me how Lily was, how she was adjusting. He said if I cooperated, if I stayed quiet, he'd take care of her. But if I caused problems, he'd hurt her. Did you believe him? Yes, because I knew what he was capable of. I knew he only cared about the money. And as long as Lily was alive, he couldn't have it all. So I stayed quiet, took the medication, pretended to be the crazy woman he'd told everyone I was, because I thought it would keep her safe. Amanda's voice broke completely. But it didn't. He hurt her anyway. He beat her, terrorized her, and on Christmas Eve, when she'd finally had enough, he threw her away, left her to die in the snow like garbage. She looked at Brennan with fierce intensity. I want him destroyed. I want him in prison for the rest of his life. I want him to feel a fraction of the helplessness Lily and I felt. Can you do that? Brennan nodded. With your testimony, the evidence we've gathered, and Vincent's recorded confession, yes, we can do that. The trial moved quickly. Federal prosecutors didn't waste time. Vincent Moretti was charged with attempted murder, kidnapping, false imprisonment fraud, bribery of public officials, and conspiracy. The evidence was overwhelming. The journal, the medical records, the photographs from the G-Wagon, the recorded confession. Vincent's lawyers tried. They argued coercion, claimed the confession was obtained under duress. But Amanda's testimony destroyed any remaining doubt. She sat on the witness stand for 4 hours, detailed every moment of her 3-year imprisonment, described Vincent's cruelty to Lily, explained the financial motive. The jury deliberated for less than 3 hours, guilty on all counts. The judge, a stern woman in her 60s who'd seen every kind of criminal, showed no mercy. Mr. Moretti, you are a predator of the worst kind. You married a vulnerable woman for her money. You imprisoned her illegally. You abused an innocent child. And when that child became an inconvenience, you attempted to murder her in the most cowardly way imaginable. She adjusted her glasses. The law allows me to sentence you to up to 75 years in federal prison. I'm giving you every single day. You will never walk free again. You will die in prison. And I hope that every day of your incarceration, you think about the little girl you tried to kill. The gavel came down. Vincent Moretti was led away in chains. His empire collapsed. His assets seized. His name became synonymous with greed and cruelty. Judge Brennan, the corrupt judge who'd signed Amanda's commitment order, was sentenced to 15 years, disbarred. Dr. Richards and the staff at Pinewood faced criminal charges. The facility was shut down. The whole rotten structure came crashing down. While Vincent's trial concluded, Kane sat in a different courtroom, Portland, Oregon, facing the charges that had kept him running for 5 years. But this time, things were different. Amanda had kept her promise. She'd hired the best defense attorneys money could buy, and they'd found the truth. The man Kane had assaulted 5 years ago, Richard Carver, had been beating his wife, Helen Bradford, née Carver. Kane had been working security at a private event, heard screaming, found Carver choking his wife in a back hallway. Kane had intervened, put Carver in the hospital with a broken jaw and 3 cracked ribs. Carver had used his connections to bury the truth, paid off witnesses, made it look like Kane had attacked him without provocation. Helen had been too terrified to testify. Until now, Amanda's lawyers found her, convinced her to come forward, offered her protection, financial support. Helen Bradford stood in the Portland courthouse, told the truth, described years of abuse, described Kane saving her life that night. The prosecutor, faced with this new evidence, made a motion to dismiss. The judge, an older man who'd been on the bench for 30 years, looked at Kane. Mr. Kane, you have an unusual record: military service, honorable discharge, no criminal history until this incident, then 5 years as a fugitive, member of a motorcycle club with a controversial reputation. Kane stood, said nothing, just met the judge's eyes. But you also saved the life of a 6-year-old child on Christmas Eve, exposed a major fraud and corruption scheme, reunited a family. The judge paused. The assault charges are dismissed. However, you did flee justice. You did evade arrest for 5 years. That can't be ignored. Kane nodded. I'm sentencing you to 2 years probation, 200 hours of community service, and a fine of $5,000, which I understand Mrs. Morgan has already paid. The judge looked at him seriously. Mr. Kane, you walk a line between the law and outside it. You have a gift for protecting people, for seeing injustice in acting. The world needs that, but it needs it within the bounds of the law. Use your gifts wisely. The gavel came down. Cain was free. Outside the courthouse, Amanda was waiting. Lily beside her. The little girl had gained weight. Her bruises had faded. She was wearing a new winter coat, pink with flowers. When she saw Cain, her face lit up. Uncle Marcus. She ran to him. He caught her, lifted her up. Hey, little bird, you doing okay? Lily nodded enthusiastically. Mommy and I have a new house. It has a big backyard and a swing set, and I have my own room with pink walls and everything. Cain smiled, a rare, genuine expression. That sounds perfect. Amanda approached, extended her hand. Cain set Lily down, shook Amanda's hand. Thank you for everything. The lawyers tell me you're free to go. No prison time. Thanks to you. You didn't have to do that. Yes, I did. You saved my daughter's life. You brought down Vincent. You gave us a future. This is the least I could do. She handed him an envelope. There's something else. I've established a foundation, the Lily's Light Foundation. It helps children who've been abused, provides resources, support, legal advocacy. We're going to make sure what happened to Lily doesn't happen to other kids. Cain opened the envelope. Inside was a job offer, director of security. I don't need someone to push papers. I need someone who understands the streets, who knows how to find the kids the system misses, someone who will do whatever it takes to protect them. She looked at him steadily. I need someone like you. Cain stared at the paper. This opportunity, this chance to do something meaningful. I'm still a member of the Angels. I won't give that up. They're my family. I'm not asking you to. Do the work however you need to do it. I trust your judgment. Cain looked at Lily, at this little girl who'd survived hell and come out the other side. Okay, I'll do it. 1 year later, Christmas Eve, the anniversary of the night that changed everything. Cain stood at Highway 10 mile marker 42, the exact spot where he'd found Lily in the snow. The temperature was just as cold as it had been that night, the wind just as brutal. But this time he wasn't alone. A small memorial had been placed here, a bronze plaque on a stone marker. It read, "In memory of all lost children, may they be found, may they be saved, may they be loved. Lily's Light Foundation." Footsteps crunched in the snow behind him. He turned. Lily, now 7 years old, walking toward him. She wore a warm coat, boots, a knit hat with a pom-pom. Healthy, happy, thriving. Behind her, Amanda, also transformed. The weight had returned to her face, the clarity to her eyes. She'd taken control of the trust fund, used it to fund the foundation. She'd taken her life back. Uncle Marcus! Lily ran to him. He picked her up. What are you doing out here, little bird? It's cold. We came to find you. Mommy said you'd be here. Cain looked at Amanda. She smiled. Every year, we come here to remember, to honor the night that brought us back together. She touched the memorial, and to remind ourselves that evil exists, but so do heroes, even the ones who wear leather and ride motorcycles. Cain set Lily down. The little girl immediately grabbed his hand. Are you coming to Christmas dinner with us? We're having turkey and mashed potatoes and pie and everything. Cain looked at Amanda. She nodded. Your family, Marcus. You're always welcome. What about Reaper and the others? Already invited. We've got a big enough table. Cain felt something warm in his chest, belonging, purpose, family. Then yeah, I'll be there. Lily squealed with delight, jumped up and down in the snow. Amanda's phone buzzed. She checked it. Her expression changed, became serious. We just got an alert from one of our intake counselors. A call came in, domestic situation, child involved. Police are dragging their feet. She looked at Cain. We might need your particular skills. Kane's expression hardened, the protector mode engaging. Give me the address. As they walked back to the cars, Lily still holding Kane's hand, he looked back one more time at the memorial, at the spot where everything had changed. A year ago, he had been a fugitive, an outlaw, running from the law and from himself. Now he had purpose, direction, a reason to use all the hard skills and street knowledge he'd accumulated. Not for himself, but for kids like Lily. Kids who needed someone willing to go to war for them. The Harley roared to life. Kane's leather jacket bore the Hells Angels' death's head on the back. He'd never give that up, never stop being what he was. But now he was something else too, something more. He was a guardian, a protector, someone who stood between the innocent and the monsters. Reaper pulled up beside him on his chopper. You good brother. Kane looked at Lily and Amanda getting into their car. Safe, protected, building a new life. Yeah, I'm good. Foundation work treating you right. Better than I deserve. Reaper laughed. Nobody deserves anything, Kane. We just get what we fight for. You fought for that kid. You won. That's worth something. They rode through the Christmas Eve streets. The city was lit up. Families celebrating, children opening presents. Kane thought about Vincent Moretti, sitting in a federal prison cell, stripped of everything. He thought about Amanda and Lily, together again, healing. And he thought about himself, about the choices he'd made, about the line between outlaw and hero. Society saw the leather, the tattoos, the death's head patch. They made assumptions, crossed the street. But society also had its monsters, men in expensive suits, people who hurt children behind closed door and mansion gates, people who thought their money made them untouchable. Kane had learned the truth that night in the snow. The real monsters don't always look like monsters. And the real heroes don't always look like heroes. Sometimes the angels wear leather. Sometimes they ride steel and fire through the darkness. Sometimes they have prison ink and arrest records. But when a child is dying in the snow, when evil thinks it's won, when the system fails and hope seems lost, those are the angels who show up. Those are the ones who stand and fight. Kane pulled into the driveway of Amanda's house. The Foundation's headquarters was attached, a place where scared kids could come, where mothers fleeing abuse could find sanctuary. The angels helped run security, provided muscle when needed, made sure the people who came seeking help stayed safe. It was good work, honest work, the kind that let Kane sleep at night. Inside, the Christmas tree was lit. The table was set. Lily was already dragging him toward the presents, chattering about everything and nothing. Amanda caught his eye, mouthed two words. Thank you. Kane nodded. No words needed. As he sat down to dinner surrounded by family, both blood and chosen, he realized something. He'd spent 5 years running from the wounds, from his past, from himself, but he wasn't running anymore. He'd found his place, his purpose, his redemption. 1 year ago, he'd saved a little girl in the snow. Tonight, he understood the truth. She'd saved him too.